Hello everyone, it's Dan Drake with Keller Williams Realty, and today we'll be discussing the weekly market wrap-up for Wednesday, October 18th. And like we've been doing in the past, we're going to talk about the 4 counties in the northwest suburbs. We're going to talk about Cook County, Lake County, McHenry, and Kane, and we're going to talk about the new listings that came on the market this past week, the ones that just went under contract, and also the ones that have closed in comparison to the week prior. Now, what we've seen over the past week is we actually saw a decrease in the number of homes that came on the market. Now, again, we're starting to hit the fall time, and this is usually what happens. You know, typically October is a pretty good month until about towards the end of November, towards the Thanksgiving time, and that's when essentially the market kind of drops off until at least the first of the year. But the new contracts came in. We had 3,269 new homes came on the market this past week versus 3,584 last week. And under contracts, we actually saw a little bit of a dip as well. We went from 1,623. From last week, we had 1,772. So we had a little bit less homes go under contract as well. And the close, we actually shot up, and we'll talk about the closings as well. But we went from 954 last week to almost 1,200. 1,190 homes went closed this past week. Now, the interesting thing about the closings is actually last week, we had the lowest amount of closings, and we had a 954 that we had in the past 8 months altogether. So it's pretty interesting what's been going on, but the great thing is the fact that under contract is starting to come back up as well. Now, the first thing that we'll talk about from the slides is actually the closed listings. And as you can see, we've steadily decreased over the past month or so. We picked up for that 1 week, but overall, when you compare us to last year, we are steadily probably about 25% or at least 20% lower almost every single week than we were last year at this time. Now again, a lot of that has to do with the interest rates, and we'll talk about the interest rates and where we expect it to kind of see in 2024. Now the next slide we'll talk about is the under contracts. Now as you can see in the under contracts, it's actually it's something that you wouldn't think about when you listen to the news, but steadily we've had week over week for at least the past 2 to 3 months or so, more homes go under contract on a weekly basis than last year. And if you think about it, from last year, right around this October timeframe, we saw interest rates skyrocket. At that point, we're probably sitting around the 5s. And at that point, everyone was like, oh, there's too high. You know, we had 3s at the beginning of the year. We're going to wait and see what happens. So is that kind of initial shock at that point kind of put everything on the back burner, because that second half of last year really wasn't that great. And it really basically went into this year. And I think by springtime, a lot of buyers, they realize it is what it is. This is what the interest rates are. We're still historically low in the mid 7s when you compare us to, you know, at least over the last 30 to 50 years. And the last thing that I want to talk about here is going to be, like we talked about before, is the number of showings. Now, just like in weeks prior, the great thing about 2023 as opposed to 2022 is we were actually seeing more activity, so more traffic in comparison to this time last year. Now again, if you look at the graph, obviously 2021 and 2020 were much, much higher due to the fact that COVID and everyone was out buying at that point. But the great thing is that we are actually steadily above last year, and I think that will go into 2024 as well, especially when we talk about interest rates. Now, speaking of interest rates, the Mortgage Association predicts that next year we're going to see an 11% increase in mortgage originations in comparison to 2023. And I think the main thing about it is a lot of times those buyers are going to realize at this point, again, the interest rate is what it is, and they're going to start shopping. But on the flip side, you have the Philadelphia Federal Reserve, the president over there. He actually said that he believes that they're going to stall the interest rates. So there's not going to be too much more of a hike. And he actually said that every single time they go to a meeting, one of the number one priorities they're talking about is the housing market, is the mortgage interest rates. And one of the common themes is, because of the rates, there's no such thing as a first-time home buyer because we've essentially priced them out of the market. So that's something that we're definitely going to have to take a look forward towards in the future. But he does believe 2024, when rates kind of hold steady, then you're going to see a lot more homes coming on the market. And they do believe that's going to dip, maybe not the first half of next year, but they do believe maybe the second half of next year, because they're also saying that there might be a little mild recession in the first half of 2024. But again, who knows? But if the rates do drop like we talked about before, and they get anywhere close to the 5s, you better believe there's going to be a ton of buyers, and they're going to start coming out shopping. And with that happening, then you're going to see a lot of homes, they're going to go through the roof, right? Prices are going to go through, because when you have a limited number of supply and you got a huge amount of demand, it's just simple economics, then prices are going to raise up. However, with rates going into 5 as well, we do believe that a lot of that inventory is going to start coming on the market. Because even the Federal Reserve, the guy at the Philadelphia Federal Reserve, he basically said, he's like, we've realized that what we've done is we've essentially created a shortage of homes on the market, because like you guys are probably sitting at home, why would you want to sell when you're sitting at a 3 or 4% interest rate and buy something in the mid 7s? And so they realized that's what they essentially did to the real estate market, and they really they hurt it. Not only are they stopping inflation, which is a good thing, but they've also really crippled the real estate market. But they believe that when rates start coming back down, then you're going to have a lot more of those sellers. They're going to sit back and they're like, we could probably sell at a 5. Or they're going to sell and then purchase at a 5. So with that being said, I do believe when rates start dropping, then what's going to happen is a lot of buyers are going to start coming off the sidelines. They're going to start buying, but you're also going to have a lot of your traditional sellers are going to realize that this is probably the time where prices are high, interest rates aren't as low as they used to be, but they're a lot lower than they are now, and that's the time to put their house on the market. So if you ever have any questions in regards to the real estate market, please feel free to give me a call or email. My information's below, and Drake Residential is here for all of your real estate needs.